Let's start with the top piece of news that's been making the rounds for a while, and that is that Brock Lesnar will be returning soon, potentially as soon as SummerSlam. Suddenly, everyone is talking about Brock Lesnar returning, again, potentially for SummerSlam. Honestly, if the plan is to return for SummerSlam, Bobby Lashley is right there, and should absolutely be option number one. There are, of course, some other options. The potential for a Lesnar versus Reigns feud has been mentioned, but I feel right now Cena versus Reigns makes more sense if Cena is or becomes available. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley is something that's been posited by Bobby Lashley basically from the beginning of his contract until what will be the end of his career, I'm sure. But Paul Heyman has suggested on a number of occasions that Brock Lesnar simply isn't interested in the match. He simply doesn't want the match to go ahead. So it may be that we don't see Brock Lesnar for SummerSlam if that indeed is the plan. I can't think of many other potential opportunities and opponents for Brock Lesnar if it isn't Bobby Lashley. So give me Bobby Lashley. Andrew Zarian, who's got a lot right recently from Mat Men Podcast, has confirmed that Brock has been wanted by the WWE essentially whenever fans return since he left. And this is something that I've reported in the past. About a year ago, I did report that Brock Lesnar had been, and I quote, penciled in for last year's SummerSlam. I reported that here on this YouTube channel. I'm glad somebody finally had the balls to be honest about the fact that the WWE have wanted Brock back for a long time. A long time. Because I tell you what, a lot of people said that that wasn't true until now, when suddenly they're all saying that it is true. Wonderful times. Wonderful times. Brock Lesnar, to my knowledge, is due soon, but I cannot say when. I don't have that information. SummerSlam makes the most sense. It makes the most sense to see Brock Lesnar return at SummerSlam to take on Bobby Lashley. And if that happens, my expectation is that Brock Lesnar will beat Bobby Lashley, take the WWE Championship, and we will continue a build for McIntyre versus Lesnar at next year's WrestleMania. That seems the most likely scenario for me. J-Quick says, wouldn't Lesnar have to show up before SummerSlam to build it up? Absolutely he would. The plan then would be, if he was to appear at SummerSlam, for Lesnar to appear either at or after Money in the Bank. A little bit later I'm going to be talking about my match card predictions for Money in the Bank, but I do have Bobby Lashley versus Kofi Kingston there, and I don't have a Roman Reigns match. So, if we have Lashley versus Kofi Kingston, it seems the ideal time for Brock Lesnar to return, throw Kofi Kingston about, and then walk up to a challenge with Bobby Lashley. There is obviously a lot that they could do with that particular storyline. J-Quick says, Lesnar versus Reigns for custody of Heyman like they did with Guerrero versus Mysterio. I suspect, with Heyman being Heyman, and Lesnar and Reigns being Lesnar and Reigns, I suspect what would actually happen there is that Lesnar would walk in, see Heyman there, and then just move on with his life and say, okay, you don't deserve me. That's what I personally would expect when it comes to that.